Welcome to Going Deeper with David Steele, the show that dives into the heart of environmental solutions while literally floating on the source, the ocean. In just a few short minutes, we'll meet with the entrepreneurs and game changers that are making a difference in people's lives through the products and services they provide. Get ready to unplug from the matrix of mediocrity and plug into nature as we discuss the solutions to many of today's biggest challenges. It's time to go deeper. Stoked to be here for another episode of Going Deeper with my friend René Baumstark. Right? Close enough?
Yeah, that's it.
It's truly beautiful. What's the name of this park?
Fort DeSoto.
Fort DeSoto Park. And about, 30 minutes ago, we saw five different manatees in here. I've always been a fisherman, so I have a lot of superstitions, and I think manatees are really lucky. When you see a manatee, it means like good fortune is coming to you. Mm-hmm. So we saw 5 of them. I know I might be a little crazy, but so be it. Today we wanted to talk a little bit about the environment and some work and some research that René's doing on the wetlands, on the seagrass, but the one that's really exciting is on the coral reefs as well. And I think people don't realize just how important the marine life is to our life. It's like there's so many things going on the planet and geopolitically and in our normal lives that we don't think about the coral reefs. But if, God forbid, the coral reefs were to go away, it would affect all of humanity for sure. And there's a lot of people that are doing things to find new ways to actually be able to look at the problem. Because I think a part of it is that, how do you measure something other than like, oh, I went diving there last year and now it's like, it doesn't look the same. And one of the things that René is looking at is, how can we, as effectively, consistently, and inexpensively as possible, kind of map the ocean and be able to do actual real research. Because a part of the problem is if we don't know what the problem is, it's hard to have a solution. So I just want to first thank you because we are brothers from another mother. We both grew up in Miami pretty close to each other.
We did.
Both developed a love for the ocean very early on in life. And when I was coming out here, René's like, oh, I've got 8 paddle boards. Let's go. Where do we want to go? Tell us a little bit of the work you do with Fish and Game.
Yeah, Florida Fish and Wildlife, the Research Institute. So yeah, early on in my career, I wanted to be able to study the ocean. I learned pretty quickly that we understand very little about the ocean. It's the complexities of the ecology, the interconnectedness, the interface between the land and the water and everything that lives in it. I mean, we've done a lot of research, but when you have this big body of water, it complicates everything. A dynamic, you can't easily, we can't breathe in it. We can't easily see through it once it gets deep. Sending things down is hard with pressure. It's just really, it's like the next frontier of science in a lot of ways. So I always thought, okay, well, how can we get better? How can we improve our understanding of that? And initially I got interested in spatial analytics and mapping GIS, and that brought me into the technology realm. I loved and I enjoyed studying the ecology and the interconnectedness of landscapes, or seascapes, I guess you could call it, and realized, we could be better at this. And it's just an exciting time for us in general when technology is changing so quickly. And I was always looking for interdisciplinary approaches and borrowing from other disciplines and the tools they're building, the technologies they're using, and leveraging it in conservation. Because traditionally we don't have a lot of funding to do a lot of research and development. But we can take the tools that other well-funded industries, health sciences, military is the big one, and bring them into our realm and learn how to map, monitor, understand our environment better.
Specifically, what are one of the 2 ways that you're, starting to look at how to better map the ocean?
So ocean, there's 2 components really to understanding the seafloor. We want to understand the biological cover as well as geological structure, the geoform. And you have deep water and you have shallow water. obviously easier in shallow water. You can see through it. So we can use technologies that are passive, that are simply measuring the light. And we can use active technologies like lasers that can give us really detailed information on the structure of the seafloor. These are new technologies like LiDAR. We used to do these things with flying airplanes, and now satellites, low orbiting satellites, have given us the spatial and radiometric and spectral resolution that is completely, it's a new realm of information and data that we have available to us now. So this makes it much more economical if you don't have to have airplanes in the sky. We can use these data sets, and they're giving us more than the old digital cameras ever gave with this additional wavelengths of information. Mm-hmm. Shallow water, you go into deep water, it gets a little more complicated. It costs about $5,000 to $10,000 a day to operate a large vessel. The vessels that can go offshore with multi-beam equipment and different technologies for mapping. If you want a vessel that can have some endurance, keep you out there for a week, that's a lot of money. And it's just completely impractical. And we currently do not have a good map of the Florida shelf. A majority of the Florida shelf we do not have mapped. Wow. Every time we go out there, we discover amazing things, these deep sea corals that people never knew existed, mesophotic reefs, very different from the shallow reefs that we're used to seeing in the Keys, as beautiful and complex and amazing as the reefs in Florida. So, but harder to get to, deeper, much deeper. I think using automated systems, sail drone is a big one, are doing amazing things. That's a company here.
So sail drone is floating in the water, being pulled by a boat?
No, it's autonomous. It's a sailboat. Solar, it's got batteries, but these have pretty impressive endurance. They can go out for weeks at a time. And they're autonomous, completely autonomous. You just give them a track and they can tack to keep their track. This company is actually local in St. Pete, or they have an office here. And they get large. I think their bigger ones are 20, 30 feet, so maybe even bigger. I'm not sure. They don't have the big ones here, but they have a few different size classes.
The idea is not just to measure, but to actually help come up with solutions, because one of the big problems that we have is that the coral reefs are in great danger right now. And, I think most that are listening to this podcast remember last year when, the Florida Everglades, I guess it was, saw some of the hottest temperatures ever recorded in the ocean. Yeah. There over 100 degrees, which I don't have a realm of experience to even put together what that is. But I know it's not good.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like a part of the solution to come up with more resilient coral, or to come up with what are some of the solutions that you're considering or people are looking at?
Yeah, technology plays a role there as well. So yeah, we're living in a changing planet, and the climate is really affecting us. There are anthropogenic influences, perturbations are constant, whether it's us adding something to a system or a natural event that we're exacerbating, making storms bigger and stronger. And yes, that Everglades resulted in a huge seagrass die-off. We lost so many, massive amounts of seagrass.
That's what the manatee's like.
Yeah. If the core of your ecosystem fails, it impacts everything. And in the River Lagoon, we had a seagrass die-off, and then that resulted in an unusual mortality event for manatees. I think somewhere in the realm of hundreds of manatees died in the Indian River Lagoon, dolphin die-offs, and all kinds of fish kills. How can we use our science and knowledge to make our environment more resilient? A great example where we have, in the very recent past, had a coral disease, stony coral tissue loss disease, that pretty much decimated entire species. 17, we have some survivors, but in some areas, 70 or 80% mortality. So we went and rescued some of these, what we believe are more resilient, the species that survived, along with genotypes from other parts of the reef. And the hope is that maybe they can be propagated to become more resilient. At least we want to have more diversity out in the environment. But yeah, we believe some species might be more resilient. It's a little bit of a glimpse of hope in an otherwise very dismal outlook here for corals. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to solve climate change right away, or at least not in time for the corals to catch up with sea level rise, acidification.
But I think one of the important things is to have the very best technology mapping now, so that when we map again next year or the year after, we can start to understand the rate of change.
Exactly.
And if we're always changing the systems, then it's kind of hard to compare.
Right. Yeah.
So it becomes more and more critical. I think that
A baseline you need.
Yeah, I think that there's so many scientists and people working on this at all parts of the world. Is information shared with other agencies and stuff?
Yeah, we're getting better with that. A lot of these data sets are huge, and typically one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of thing. We process large amounts of data. If we think about all the sensors that are in the sky and the ocean, collecting massive imagery, sounds, acoustics, we're collecting data constantly. And we usually want to clean that out and make those zeros and ones, bring them from data into information, right? But the questions you are trying to answer will define how you process that data. So it's hard to just put all the raw data out there. That becomes very large. I think there's opportunity here because every agency, there's some products that we all share, we all want, we all have in common. But I think there's opportunities with things like artificial intelligence, machine learning to help us process these massive amounts of data that are constantly streaming and give us a step up. Sometimes we don't even know what it is the patterns that we're trying to find because it just takes so long to sort through all this data. A lot of opportunities there, and then that's what we can share and bring us all on the same page.
So what are one or two positive things that you've seen in the last little while?
Being out here and realizing that people want to make a change and want to do things is, we get funded to do research pretty well. It's clear. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a disaster to make people aware of the severity of a problem. But we have so much support. People really care about fish and wildlife in Florida. The residents here, there's no lack of support, and that gives me hope. People want to do what they can. They tend to, really appreciate the work we do. That's one. I would also just lean on a technology and say our lives are getting more easier, which I think would computate to say, there was a point where our population was growing. We didn't know how we were going to feed all these people. Technology saved us with agriculture. Can technology save the environment for us? I think it can play a big, important role.
Well, I think AI is going to play a big role in crunching those data sets that you can come up with to help form some, reasonable next steps, So I just love that you do what you love, and you're out here, most days in nature as well. It's truly beautiful where we're at. Just on the other side of us, not a quarter mile is the ocean. It was pretty windy and pretty crazy out there, and I don't think you could have heard us, and we would have been shaking all over. So we're in here, and it was just really beautiful to come out here and see those manatees. So I think, I'm going to say I have 5 years of good luck, one for each manatee that we saw.
Yeah. Your math is good.
I appreciate the work that you're doing, and, that you're, I hope when we tell about it, there'll be more people that want to get involved,
Absolutely.
And this isn't the only thing you do, but it's the thing that you do that you're passionate about. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for it. And we want to keep in touch and find out, when some good things happen. And I freaking would love to learn more about the water drone sort of boat to map the bottom. That's pretty cool because I've been a drone nerd for about 5 years, so that would be pretty incredible. And it only makes sense. You don't need someone to drive it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I guess one last question I was just thinking about. I imagine that a lot of the technology comes from military, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if people realize how important, we think of the R&D we spend on military as, building war machines, but a lot of what they do, the technology is applicable way beyond war.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
because I think of geotechnology. That's got to be
that came in. I think a lot of that was all right.
Anyway, thank you so much for everything that you're doing and for taking us out here on your paddle boards and guiding us right into the manatees. And we're gonna have to do another episode sometime for sure.
Thank you. You're always welcome to be here.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of Going Deeper with David Steele. I hope you found inspiration and insight to fuel your passion for a better world. Remember, change starts with us, and together we can be the driving force for a brighter, more sustainable future. So until next week, keep your hearts open, your minds curious, and your actions aligned with the planet's well-being. Stay committed, stay conscious, and let's meet right back here next time for another deep dive into making a difference.